From the Illinois State Fairgrounds, I'm Natasha Korecki, and this is Off Message, and we are having a very special episode. We're shooting on site. Joining me this week, Amanda Vinicky, as well as Dave McKinney in the flesh, and our columnist, Mark Brown. We've seen the Democrats, we've seen the Republicans. Let's talk a little bit about what they did not want to talk about. We didn't hear anything about NRI, for instance. Why don't we start there, Dave? What didn't the Democrats want to discuss?
Well, I mean, you touch on that one, obviously. Governor Quinn's signature anti-violence program from 2010 that's under federal investigation. I mean, that is a complete blemish on his record. The Democrats steered clear of that completely, but the Republicans, when they had their moment in the sun, of course, they had a field day with it. I mean, I don't know how many times Bruce Rauner said the governor himself is under federal investigation.
He's under federal investigation right now.
Which, of course, is not true that we know of. That just shows the mileage they're getting out of it. The Democrats also steered clear of the tax increase. I mean, they portrayed this talk of extending the temporary income tax as a courageous choice. The Republicans, they steered clear of talking about millionaires. I mean, that's kind of their Achilles heel a little bit with Rauner and Oberweis. But the one exception was hearing Oberweis lead the crowd in a chant today against Dick Durbin, calling Dick Durbin a millionaire. It was kind of odd.
Millionaire. Career politician. Dick Durbin. Must go.
And yesterday, of course, Dick Durbin was holding a Powerball ticket and saying he was just one Powerball ticket away from having the amount of wealth that his opponent has.
It could happen.
That brings me to how Democrats were casting Republicans.
I'm here for billionaires for Bruce.
They won't leave it alone. I mean, it is almost like that is the entire election, that there's no policy behind it.
Is it effective?
In this time, yes. Clearly, people are still hurting, and the Democrats are asking people to pay more out of their pocketbooks to give to the state of Illinois, a state that still has a reputation for being corrupt. We do have an administration, not a governor, who is under investigation. People aren't really wanting to hand over more money to Illinois, and no matter who it is. So I think it works to an extent. That said, the frustration is so overwhelming with state government. I'm not sure that that's going to do it. Maybe in a regular year it could, but at this point in time, no. And the kind of, I guess, the somewhat irony of the situation is that Bruce Rauner's wealth has propelled his campaign. We wouldn't have a Republican nominee, Rauner, if it weren't for the money that he put into it and the money that he's using to flood the airwaves with commercials.
Do you think we would see the kind of organization we're seeing, with the Republicans this year, if not for Bruce Rauner?
We talked to several of the, big Republicans on their way in this morning. Judy Bar-Topinka, former state party chair, we asked her what the big difference was between this election and the last couple of elections, and she said money. We've got money to do things with. Now, I think it's also they do have a good candidate. A candidate who knows how to use the money wisely. But
and they're using data too. You know what I mean? They're using the money for ground games in areas, for new offices where they haven't before, and to really study and research. I know I talked to one of the lesser known candidates, the guy who's running for Secretary of State, Mike Webster, against Jesse White, the Democrat. And he said, yeah, I'm getting all sorts of information from the Rauner camp about where I should be, what I should be saying, where I should be going. And it's the money put to use.
Dave, you've seen a lot of different campaigns. Have you seen this kind of momentum from Republicans in the past?
You know what, today with the Republicans was very reminiscent to me of what these days used to be like in the late 1990s when we had a governor who was a Republican. And Edgar, of course, introduced Rauner, but clearly today, Rauner and the rest of this ticket really was front and center over those faces of the past, I think. But this was reminiscent of the day when Republicans really kind of ran Springfield.
So was anyone surprised that Evelyn Sanguinetti didn't have more of a visible role?
I was not at all surprised by that.
And of course, why?
Evelyn Sanguinetti, there was a great column by Kurt Erickson that found an old email that she'd written before she was selected by Rauner to be the candidate for lieutenant governor, that she had evidently tried to get a job with the Quinn administration, really, as an attorney for one of the state agencies, and ended it with, "Isn't cow tipping a requirement to work in Springfield? LOL. Yeah, when you're running a campaign, Rauner has tried to make a big deal about he's going to move downstate and live in this mansion. It doesn't play so well when your lieutenant governor candidate makes a joke about cow tipping.
Mark, how does that rankle people in Springfield?
People down here, they make fun of being down here too, but they're not, you're not allowed to do it if you're from Chicago. So let's face it, Evelyn Sanguinetti is a weak spot on the Rauner ticket. I mean, she just is.
She's Sarah Palin-esque, I think. She looks like Sarah Palin. She sort of sounds like her, I think.
After we won the primary, we were so jazzed up.
Sarah Palin operated at a much higher level. Evelyn Sanguinetti's a Wheaton City Council member.
She is Hispanic. She speaks Spanish fluently. She clearly uses that every chance she gets.
Menos impuestos, less taxes.
You don't have the experience of appearing in front of the cameras and thinking fast on your feet and doing the things that now she's suddenly expected to do. And granted, this is an email that I'm sure she sent never thinking it would ever be public. And so, to hold that against her,
maybe it makes it more damaging, though. I do think that she gets up, she riles a crowd, she has a good presence. The speaking out to the Latino community is a big deal. When Republicans are continually knocked for not having a lot of diversity, she's out there. You have the Vallis ticket, and it's, two old white guys who've been in politics forever. She fits that outsider mold. So if that's something that voters are looking for versus the experience, she can do that. It's just these missteps that she trips
up on. So let's talk about overblown comments a little bit. There was a little bit of crossfire with U.S. Senator Mark Kirk and Tammy Duckworth. She references Bruce Rauner, Cayman Islands. She uses the word deserter. How did Mark Kirk react to that, Dave?
Well, he bristled by it. I mean, he thought that was an overblown statement on Duckworth's part.
I would say that rhetoric is probably too overblown for a country that wants to stick together and hang together.
And what you have going on as well between the two of those is this whole idea that, could they be rivals for that U.S. Senate seat coming up? I mean, there's an undercurrent very definitely to that.
And when she uses that term against, doesn't that carry a little bit more weight? Or
I think she should know that it's a loaded term and she should be a little more careful with it. They're latching onto this Cayman Island thing, and I don't think they're communicating it accurately and effectively yet.
He would not commit to releasing his full tax schedules. Do you think that, the repeated demand from the Democrats for him, they keep trying to put this, do you think that it's making any inroads with voters? Do they care?
Well, I think what it does for them is it keeps that wealth issue and the class warfare issue front and center all the way to Election Day. I mean, I know, in talking with the Rauner people, their belief is that, look, if we give them what they want here, the Democrats, then what else are they going to want in this? Where does it stop? They are making a calculated decision not to release it. It spares him a lot of questions, but for the Democrats, it hands them an issue that they will use day after day after day until November 4th.
The message of class warfare overall, and that you have this rich guy who can identify with you, that's going to carry more weight with voters than tax schedules. The Senate Republican leader had an interesting take on that, and she said, it's hard enough to find quality people to run for office. Nobody's going to do it if you really have to make your life an open book.
So how effective is it that Bruce Rauner is saying that he's going to, if I'm governor, I'm moving into the governor's mansion?
This is the people's house. We all own it. It's an honor, and it should be a sign of respect to live in that house.
There still is some suspicion, among Republicans. It's, this guy's a Chicago guy, and they don't trust Chicago guys, and so that's an important symbolic thing for any governor candidate to say. I believe Pat Quinn said the same thing on the day that he was made governor, and
he was going to keep his underwear at the mansion. So he may do that, but you can buy more underwear.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see Quinn staying at the mansion very often at all. And, the mansion is such a powerful symbol of downstate. It's revered here for a lot of reasons. And I remember, right when George Ryan took office, there was a little bit of a dust up when he moved in, and the first thing he said was, I want to put a swimming pool there. So, at least we don't have Rauner talking about putting a swimming pool at the mansion if he moves in.
Well, let's shift to quotes of the week. We'll start off with Mark.
You'll know you're there by the smell. This was the young lady in the state fair office directing me to the press tent at the fair here, which is conveniently located next to the swine barn.
I'm sure that was not intentional at all on the part of the state, I'm sure.
All right, Dave, what do you got?
Well, this one comes from our Secretary of State, Jesse White. He wanted to get out to African-American voters that Rauner is not the man for them. What he said was, I tell people, if someone asks them to support their effort, I believe that, taking money is not exactly legal. But if you have to take it, take it.
But when you go into the polling place, vote right.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're at the state fair, I'll actually use one from House Republican leader Jim Durkin. And in trying to make the point that Republicans need to overtake Illinois, said, don't be fooled by Democrats' rosy picture of the state.
It looks and smells like what's coming out of one of these barns over here over my left shoulder.
I will circle back to the cow tipping comment. Pat Quinn then holds a subsequent press conference. He demands an apology from Evelyn Sanguinetti and says that she should apologize even to all of those cows. So with that, thank you very much for joining us on this special edition of Off Message, and we will see you next week.